Right then, so as I said in the last video, I've got the rear wheel bearings to do on the Bonneville America. I kind of noticed that the bike was feeling a little bit vague. I put it down to me being a bit vague to begin with. Maybe I was a bit sleepy on my ride in, but yeah, it didn't feel quite right. So I checked my tyre pressures and they were fine. You know, it just had that, yeah, just the only word I can come up with, vagueness. It just didn't feel like it was responding, not in a mechanical way, just in a movement way, quite how it should do. Particularly when I was overtaking and like on the white lines and stuff. And I don't know whether because it's, you know, it's got the struts instead of rear shocks on that, whether you kind of feel it a bit more. Anything that feels a bit untoward, I mean, you feel everything on that, every bump. But anyway, regardless, yeah, tyre pressures were fine, so I've got to get back home. And I needed to do a service. I got all the bits for a service, annoyingly, because I hadn't ordered the wheel bearings at that point. Got it up on the stand, and yeah, sure enough, it's the rear wheel. You can, yeah, hopefully that'll pick up on the video. I can show you where that's quite obviously got some shagged bearings. Not sure if it's the wheel bearings or the sprocket carrier bearings. I've got 3 bearings to change. So in the sprocket carrier, there's a bearing, and then 1 on each side of, you know, 2 in the wheel. So I ordered those then, and I've got those, and that's basically what this video is going to be, me doing the wheel bearings. So let's crack on. Alright, so I don't know if this is going to pick up, but so with the wheel off the ground, obviously, I'm going to try and feel if there's any free play, and I'm going to demonstrate with an old headlight ring. So imagine this is our wheel, and if we're looking at the wheel that way on, so I'm going to grab it, and I'm trying to do this kind of motion with the wheel, so that axle's through here obviously, and you're just trying to see if there's any rocking that way. So I'm just going to hold it there. I don't know if that's going to pick up. I'll come in a bit closer if I can. You can hear clunking. That's not stand or anything. That is, you can feel it coming from, you know, the centre of the wheel. Let's see if I'll bring it in and see if that's going to pick up a bit more. So there is. You might have to take my word for it. Don't know if that's going to work with there. That's going to come out particularly well, but definitely a clonking. You can hear actually. Yeah. Anyway, there's shag. So wheel off. And so we got well, I've got these pyramid parts before, and all balls bearings, I think. What are the other ones? Is it Koyo? I'm trying to think. There's, I mean, you know, I've used these before. They're reasonably priced. It's about 15 quid, I think, for, and in that you get it's a lovely sticker. So we're always happy with a sticker with boobs on it. Bit of lube when you're looking at the boobs, and we've got new dust seals for each side, and 3 bearings, so 2 of those will go in the wheel and 1 of those will go in the sprocket carrier here, but we'll have a look at that when it's all off. So first of all, 24mm on the rear axle. That off. And then 8mm on the chain adjusters. So I'm just going to wind them all the way in on both sides. Okay, so what I've also done is I'm just drawing out the axle now. We'll take it down. No, can't see it there. Just because I'm working with the bike up in the air, just to save my back a little bit at the moment. And I've just got one of these little stands, scissor lift stands, just to take the weight of the wheel. Also makes life a bit easier when the wheel's going back on as well and you're trying to balance everything. So lower the stand. Also for me as well, trying to get clearance, getting the back wheel out with the mudguard as well, because it's all pretty low. Normally I have to get a bit of height on the bike just so I can lower it down beneath the mudguard to put it out the back. If that makes any sense. And the spaces, there's a spacer on each side. That one in the sprocket side, and the old top hat, as I call it, on the caliper side. Stick those back on the axle in the order that they go on if you need a reminder. Put the axle and everything back through so it's all together, and the rear brake isn't hanging off its brake line. Right, so let's have a little close look. So we have got a pretty dirty wheel, but then we've got our one dust seal. This is the brake disc side, obviously. Also, eagle-eyed among you will notice that although I refer to this as the Bonneville America, this is actually a early Speedmaster wheel, just because I felt like doing something a bit different, and picked one of these up on Fleabay. I quite like having a almost solid rear wheel and spokes. Makes cleaning the wheel a lot easier, but anyway, that's by the by. Also, I'm running a tubeless on here. So yeah, so we've got a dust seal on this side, and behind the dust seal will be one bearing, and then if we flip it over, right, ignoring just how squared off, embarrassingly squared off my tyre is, sprocket side, another dust seal, and we'll have, I'll probably have to pull this, give this 2 hands to pull this off. Let's get the old sprocket carrier. Not really giving myself much room here. And so we got in the sprocket carrier, is that, this is a bit close, we've got another, where are we, another bearing in there, and then you can probably see the other bearing there. So let's start with the sprocket carrier bearing, pop that one out. So at this stage, it doesn't hurt to just, before you start bashing bearings out, just check the ones you've ordered are actually the right ones. And so a little quick eyeball size up. That dust seal looks right there. It's going to be the sprocket carrier bearing. It's about right. And we've got 2 wheel bearings which are looking, I think this, yeah, they are slightly different sizes. This looks like, yep, that one you can feel fits there. This one around. I'm fairly confident this, we haven't got an issue with sizes, but done it just to double check. The dust cover, there we go. So yeah, and we're going to go in, pretty sure that should be the right size, that one. But yeah, I'm pretty sure we're okay. So we're going to pop this dust cover off. Also just having a little look. So we look on the inside, this one's quite nice. So we have a little spacer side there that pops out, and you can kind of see where the bearing is here. I don't know if it's super obvious, but you can kind of see that it's up, but you can't see the kind of the outer race, like the metal. So it's the inner race here. You can't see the outer race because that's kind of got a machined shoulder in there, so we know the bearing's going to have to go that way, rather than you sort of pounding on it for ages trying to figure out why it's not popping out and it doesn't hurt, and then you're not going to damage this lip here that's long there. That will, as I tap it out, that'll probably be a bit more obvious, but yeah, it's always worth just orientating yourself. So if you can, give yourself some clues so you're not smashing against something that isn't meant to go that way, particularly on something like with these where, you know, without, I'm not going to be using bearing pullers or anything like that. It's just going to be drifts and sockets and older bearings, so you're going to be pounding on stuff a little bit. Right, let's get an old screwdriver and pop that dust cover off, pop you down. Wow, you can kind of see a shitload of corrosion in there. I'm not actually sure which bearing's shagged, but that's crappy. Right, spin this over. I've got it on one of these little cheap workbenches here. Hopefully that will do for pounding it out. I've got to try just going with the drift first and tapping around. Hammer, hammer, hammer. I bet the hammer is underneath. Okay, so I'm going to be just tapping this out. Obviously we've got this shoulder here, so I'm not going to be tapping on the outer race, it's going to be the inner. These are just, you know, obviously it's bearing, it's an interference fit. I don't think it, with this amount of crap and gunk in here, I might slap on a little bit of, I don't know, it's probably a little bit WD-40. I'm going to clean all this up anyway, so I can go on there. So, the old, what's this stuff? Shotgun lock. Let's see if a little bit of cooling stuff down might go some way to helping us. Let's just blow off the WD-40 I've just put on there. We'll see. Move your spacers off the bench when you're banging it so they don't go into the stratosphere. While I'm doing that, can you start to see where that shoulder was? Just in there. There. So you can see the gap starting to form now as we're drifting that out. even taps all the way around the circumference of the bearing. That to pop out. Hello. There you go. That illustrates a little easier where the bearing seats. That little shit on there, but looks awful. But there's no graunchiness or notchiness there. It's actually spinning quite nicely. I'll just put that over there. Then we'll start doing the same with the wheel. Kaboom! There is a little circlip you can see in this one, so we'll whip that out next. Again, in the wheel one, so we've got a circlip here. I'm guessing one side might have a shoulder as well. We'll have a little look when I get in there. So each bearing as well, so you've got the bearing and there's a hole straight through, and the other bearing on the other side, but there will be a spacer on the inside there as well, which kind of just floats in there, and that's just, well, it does what a spacer does, is stop the, as you tighten the axle, stop the bearings, the inner race of the bearings pushing in, you know, just so that'll be in there. That might make it, I'm guessing if the circlip's here, try and work out which way we're going to pop it out, but the one we'll have to knock out first before there's a shoulder. We'll have to try and get the drift through the spacer in there as well, I guess. Can't remember. I think I've done wheel bearings on Bonneville's before, but yeah, we'll have a look when we get in there. Right, I'm just going to pop the circlip out. So obviously on a bit of wood, so you're not, you know, brake disc isn't touching anything, or it's just, actually let me put the light on. So each one's gonna, so each bearing comes out this way, and that one on the other side is going to come out that way. Is this going to show? You just see the edge of the spacer there. If I push my finger in, you can see the edge of the spacer there, and that's all I'm going to have on the other side, so that much to start trying to get a drift through and tapping here to pop it out. So yeah, unfortunately that's not the great, that's not a bad angle. You get the idea? So I'm going to try and have to get the drift through and catch just this section on that inside that's exposed. So this I'm hoping will actually show up a bit better, so we can see, here's the drift, and then with the spacer moved, it's going to hit, it's going to focus, hit there. So that's the plan. Moved the bearing up enough just to give us quite a lot of, in fact, back again. Let's show you the spacer. Tap that up a bit now just to give us, you see the spacer in here moving around now, so much easier to move that around and get to the inner race on the bearing to bang out. pretty easy. So that's our spacer out. Get that clean. And the other bearing. Oh man, that one is fucked. God, yeah. That is horribly... I mean, you can probably hear it. Yeah. Maybe not so much, but oh yeah, if you could feel where my finger is now, yeah, it's really, that's like it's just full of gravel. So that's fixed. That's that one out. You can see the shoulder where that other bearing sat in there, but now that's out and the spacer's out. You can see the other bearing down there. Give that a little bit of a twatting. Yeah, that one's okay. That's our rogue one, definitely. Right, so I'm just going to clean all this up now, just because it's nice to have clean stuff to work with, and then we'll get popping the other bearings, the new fresh beautiful bearings, back in. Okay, so start with the sprocket carrier. So I've just given everything a nice clean up. Now the bearings, it's a new bearing, it's a sealed bearing, so you don't need to pack it with grease. This has come with grease anyway, so I've just kind of given it all a bit of a coating, just because I've got the grease there, and then that might help it slide in a little easier. But I'm going to go, we want to make sure it's pretty, well, you want to make sure it goes in completely straight and evenly. So when you're tapping, I mean there's lots of different ways you can press a bearing in and all this, but if you're just doing this on the bench with a bit of brute force, no specialist tools, you want to tap on this outside race here. That's the bit that you can whack. Now normally I would get a socket or something like that of the same diameter, so that sits on this outside race. I haven't got one big enough for this bearing because it's quite a big bearing. So what I'll simply do is reuse the old bearing as a makeshift drift. So we're just applying the tap into this and not damaging the brand spanking new bearing. So just give it tap all the way around just to get it started. Some people also will heat up the area, you know, like I say the sprocket carrier, they'll heat that up. There's the whole thing about putting your bearings in the freezer overnight. I just can't be arsed, I've never had a problem, just tap it in. So, I've never had to do that. I don't really like the idea of heating up the aluminium anyway. But yeah, I mean the bearings have been sat in this shed overnight anyway, so there was a frost in the cars this morning, so they're probably chilly anyway. Right, I'm at this stage now, and so the bearings seated in and down, but can you see in there? We're not quite at that shoulder yet. Now, if I keep tapping that in, there's a chance that this bearing's then going to get wedged in there as well. So all I'm going to do is just get the angle grinder out. I'm just going to cut a notch in this, and then that will still act as my kind of hitting surface, but it should mean it's easier for me to pop this out once that's seated all the way down. Hear the sound change there, so we know we're tapped all the way up to that shoulder now. Let's see, hopefully this isn't too much of an arsehole to get out. Catching the inner race of the sacrificial bearing. And voila, sorted. Dust sealing. Okay, so had a socket the right size for that bearing. Okay, so we've got the other side in, as you just saw, just tap that one in. Don't forget to put your spacer back in. That'd be unfortunate if you tapped in the other bearing and did that. Sometimes I try and either put the axle down there, maybe I could slide the other bearing over, and that just keeps everything lined up, the spacer and that. So I'm not gonna bother at the moment. I'm gonna just start tapping the bearing in and see how we get to, because there's a bit of wiggle room when it's in there. But yeah, I'm just gonna see how it goes first on this one. You can hear the change there, so that's ringing high pitch, so we know that's tapped down to the shoulder. I can see already that the space is still moving, so that means when I flip it over, the other side, which it's more of a taper than a shoulder, I need to tap that bearing down a bit further so it sits. Just whip the circlip back in this one. Make sure, obviously, if you get any grease on your disc, make sure you clean it off. Clean rag. A bit of a greasy thumbprint on there. Get rid of that. Seal. Okay, so dust seal and all that in there now. Don't know if you can see there. The space is still a little bit loose, so this side, because we know the shoulder, that's driven all the way, so I'm just going to flip it over and that tapered. The other bearing side is more of a taper on there in a kind of weird way, so I'm just going to tap that down, see if that will tap a little bit further. I'm thinking the inner races should just be close to touching the spacer, and obviously when you torque up the wheel, that will bring them in, seat them a little bit more. But right, let's flip her over. Oh. Okay, so there we go. So you see the spacers now touching each side. You can, you know, put the axle down there, you know, slide the bearing over the top and tap it down, a bit like it would if it was a steering head, you know, with your bottom yoke going through and just slide the old bearing or something down there to touch the outer race, and that will keep it all in line if that's through. But as I say, if you're careful just tapping it down and don't go mad all the way, just manipulate it into place, and then the final few taps will be enough to line it all up. There we go. Right, let's get the wheel back on. Right, cush drive rubbers back in. Don't forget your spacer. Put that one back in. Whip your sprocket back in. Excellent. Right. Do you know what? Just as I was rolling the tyre back to put the wheel back on, I thought I've got to order a new tyre because this thing's dead. But I think it might have been a decision made for me anyway. Because if, excuse me, we have a little spitoolie on there. See, we're bubbling away. So, do you know what? Wheels off, tyres pretty much dead, and I've got a puncture now. It would be foolish to stick it back on the bike, so I think might as well get the tyre off and get me a new tyre ordered. So, wrapping up the video, not quite where I thought I'd be, but yeah, it's just taking the tyre off the wheel. So I have to get inside and order me up a new tyre. Okay then, so that's the end of the video. Not quite how I thought I was going to end the video. I thought I'd have the wheel on anyway. But actually, as timing goes, that was pretty good timing. I think it's been a blessing in disguise. The tyre is pretty much the end of its life anyway. It's right down to the wear markers and it's horribly squared off. So I was going to be changing it the next few weeks anyway. So why take the wheel on and off twice? Might as well do it in one hit. Just blag myself for the lift to work for the next day or two, but apart from that, happy days. So I'm going to get inside, order me up a new tyre, and then I'll probably do a little catch-up video of really installing the wheel and then listening for the, hopefully, lack of free play and all that in the bearings. But there we go. Thanks for watching, and hopefully see you soon.